And now it's time. I said and now I said it's time. And now for something completely machinima. And now for something completely machinima. And now for something almost entirely, very precisely, but just not exclusively, sort of adjacently, kind of approximately, complete machinima. And now for something completely machinima.
Hey everybody, this is Ricky Grove, and you are listening to And Now for Something Completely Machinima podcast, a podcast dedicated to machinima and related real-time technologies. I'm here with my pals Phil Rice and Damien Valentine.
Hey there.
Unfortunately, Tracy won't be with us this week. She's off on a peacemaking mission with Trump to Ukraine, trying to solve that problem there, but I don't think even Tracy, with her great background material, is going to be able to give them a perspective. So good luck, Trace.
Good luck.
Before we start, Damien had a big announcement that he wanted to make. Go ahead.
Yeah, Star Citizen is hosting a machinima contest this month. So you need to submit your films by the end of September. It's not the first time they've done it, but they've been advertising on their social media. And basically they want to do some sort of comedy in-world adverts and things for in-world products and stuff like that. And I thought, well, that seems like something that our listeners might enjoy a chance to enter. But yeah, it's a short turnaround time for the deadline, so that's why I wanted to mention it now. But we'll have the link with the details on the forum in the show notes, so you can check out all the actual details of the contest. But if you do enter, please let us know, and we can talk about your entry next month. So we'll be keeping an eye on the contest as well. So any entries that catch our eye, we can talk about them when they're made available to see.
Thank you, Damien. That sounds like a fun contest. Star Citizen creators should be very happy about that. Are there any prizes or anything for the winners?
They're going to be giving away some ships and other in-game items for your character. And there's a lot of controversy with Star Citizen, people paying real money for ships, but you can buy them in-game for in-game money as well. But I think, for a context like that, it's a good prize. It's not a real thing, but I mean, I'd definitely enter if they were going to give away a real spaceship. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, the deadline is Tuesday, the 30th of September. So when this goes out, you've got about a whole month to give it a try. So good luck.
Excellent. Thanks for the news. So we're going to start off with my film, the film that I chose. And so I did some quick research, and I came up with an interesting series of artist interviews, nonfiction film, that was created in Second Life. I've chosen an episode called Machinima Episode 3, Lynette Wallworth, and it's put together by Draxtor from Second Life, and it was done in 2013. Now, we don't have Tracy here to give us an extensive backgrounder on it, so you'll just have to accept our short descriptions. But this was a series that was created in Second Life, nonfiction interviews with artists. And Second Life at the time was a really great platform for this kind of thing, because you had your various avatars and you could move your camera around and cut back and forth just like a nonfiction TV show. Lynette Wallworth is an Australian artist who does installations, and her focus is on celebrating the human spirit, which is admittedly vague, but still a noble enterprise. And Draxtor asks her all sorts of interesting questions about her art. Now, the problem with the film is that it's technically not particularly interesting. The upload at the archive.org is not high quality. And then the other thing is that this kind of thing can be done so much more easily and better looking using AI today. But back in 2013, they didn't have that sort of technology. So I was very pleased with it. Despite the technical problems with it, I think the questions that Draxtor asks are engaging. I found myself caught up in the ideas of the discussion. It's short. It does a good job. It's part of a series. I think there are four listed here. All four are worth your time. And it's good to see machinery being used for something other than stunts and silly TV copies and goofy movie stuff, where you're actually using a machinima platform, Second Life, to have a valid discussion about art and its creation. What did you guys think?
Um, Ricky, I think you're right. The Second Life is the ideal platform for these kind of interviews where obviously the person conducting the interview and the person being interviewed are in distant parts of the world. There's no chance that they're going to meet and do this face to face. But this is great because you can have your two avatars in a room, and they actually make a thing about this. They're talking about the wine that they're drinking, and they actually have a shot of some wine on the table. And they said that they've got it in real life each that they're drinking, but they can't
I
actually
forgot
show
that.
that. Yeah. And I thought that's kind of, it shows the limitations of Second Life, but they still worked around it to show, well, it's there on the table and virtually, and this is what we're really drinking. And I thought little things like that add to it. But you're right, Lynette could show, she was talking about her art and the installations on, it kind of cuts to live action footage of her and some of the projects that she's done. And as she's, explaining what her her art is, and she's talking about her focus is kind of on sort of people who've been mistreated, especially women in sort of Middle Eastern countries who have had to flee
Right.
from persecution there. That seems to be her topic that she's very interested in, and she was talking about different ones she's interviewed, and there's some footage of the women she's talked to, and it's in the wall behind that there's shots of it. So like you're seeing parts of her video on the wall virtually, and then it cuts to it in that you get the full audience, full screen view. And yes, it's a great way to do interviews. I would think this would still work now. I know this video is 12 years old, and you could do Zoom chats like we're doing now to record this.
Right.
But having a virtual place together,
It's a different thing.
yeah, it's and they don't do it in this particular video, but in a virtual environment, you can walk around and you could set the virtual environment to be themed around whatever it is you're talking about, if
Yeah.
you wanted to.
Yeah.
Obviously in this, they put some of her art on the background on the walls behind, but that was kind of the limit to what they could do. And of course, Second Life does have some limitations, especially back then. I mean, I haven't tried it recently, so I don't know if it's progressed too far. I suspect probably not a huge amount, but forgive me if I'm wrong about that. It's just I haven't touched it for a long time.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is very different, different use of machinima. But then we've always talked about machinima doesn't have to be one specific thing. We've seen it used for a wide variety of things. Sometimes it's very dramatic stories, sometimes it's comedy bits, sometimes it's silly stunt videos, sometimes it's interviews like this. And I think it just shows that the power of machinima to do different things and to
Yeah.
give people a tool to do something that they couldn't normally do. So I
Good
liked it.
points. Good points, Damien. Phil?
Yeah, there's actually a tradition that goes back a ways in machinima. It seems like it was a more popular thing in the early days, maybe because it was so new, a new ability. But the first show of this type where it's interview format that I can think of goes all the way back to like the year 2000. It was called Late Night with Toxie, and they conducted the map or the interview on the most popular Quake 2 deathmatch map. There's like an area that's up high on the map, and they just sat in this familiar location and did the interview. And there wasn't much to it visually, It was really about the content of the interview.
Yeah.
And the what they seemed to be emulating with that was more along the lines of American late night TV, where it's kind of there's interviews, but it's also supposed to be a little
Entertainment.
bit funny and zany and
Yeah.
yeah, mixing in some humor and stuff. Then that was taken really to the next level with the show was called This Spartan Life,
Oh, yes.
which our friend, I think he still lives in New York, Chris, was the host of that. That was
Chris
very
Burke.
popular at the time. Yeah. What was the game that was conducted in? Was it?
Halo, wasn't it?
It was Halo. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but again, same thing. There was kind of an attempt to make it more fun, I guess. Not a criticism and not a praise either. Really, it's just fact. And this interview is more in a category that I would compare more to like an NPR style interview, where there's nobody's trying to be silly at all. This is like, what, the Dick Cavett show or something like that.
Right, right.
This is a serious talk with a serious artist. And yeah, I think that the real value of it is the audio, frankly. And video wise, I think it cutting away to the live action kind of B-roll of what they're talking about saves this video in a lot of ways, because otherwise it's kind of
dull.
it's not real engaging for a non-Second Lifer. I think that someone who spends a lot of time in Second Life would have a very different opinion on that.
Yeah.
Because they've had conversations like these, they participate, and for people who were there live, it's a very different experience. Like when we did the expo in Second Life, and you would conduct interviews on stage, Ricky, with the jury winners and with other people, and yeah, it's a very different experience than being in a live place. Like you said, Damien, because it's an interactive place, and of course we had some instances where griefer members of the audience tried to add their own entertainment by,
Bombarding us with...
donning a pornographic costume and hopping on stage right in the middle and stuff. So there's that.
Good times.
Yeah, the interviewer here seems to have solved that issue somehow, probably because he's operating in a private space, or maybe activity has just dropped off. But
now, do you think it's possible to take the audio of this episode and remake it using AI?
I would think there is, yeah.
And do something like for the actual video, the real life video, put it on a screen or an old television or something like that, and have the two people watch it. So you could update this, and still the intellectual and the ideas in the discussion would be valid. It's not as if their old ideas, the ideas of creativity and working with people who are marginalized, are still very vibrant in today's world of ideas. That would be an interesting project.
Yeah, and I think the tools are all out there to do that for sure. I mean, we've seen situations where the AI will actually generate the audio as well, which is maybe a little bit less interesting. This is a real interview, and they liven it up that way. The thing that I don't know about with this is old timers like you and I, maybe Ricky, aren't quite so much this way, but today's viewer typically is a multitasker. So how many people, when this is the kind of content for our show, frankly, how many people are actually sitting there watching the whole show versus they fire it up, they put it on another tab or whatever, and they listen while they're looking at or doing something else? Now, maybe that's only exclusive to really young people, to like Gen Z and whatnot.
Right.
But I think where it works best is as a podcast. That their audio, that's the content that is going to be the most rewarding. And really, just like I think to some degree with our show, the audio, the discussion is the most valuable part, and the other visual stuff is for someone who happens to be sitting there,
right,
being engaged in that way. And I think that's true for this as well. So, and it was an interesting interesting interview, and I always like to hear about different artists and what motivates them.
Their approach, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I like that it seems like the topic here was less about technique, which is something we tend to focus on this show. That's our specialty, right? That's our niche.
Right.
This was not as much emphasis on technique and more about the why behind the art, which doesn't get talked about enough in internet space, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's all about, well, how did you do that? And that's fine, because a lot of viewers are also would-be content creators as well, and they want to know, well, how can I do that? And this was, I think, a lot more personal and a lot more about what drives her. And
Yeah,
I found it interesting.
Those discussions are always interesting to me and inspiring at times, depending upon the person, and I seek them out. Your point about Gen Z and very young people multitasking and maybe only getting a bit of it, I think is well made, but there's still a case to be made, even if that's a larger part of the audience, for the validity of this sort of discussion, because younger people tend to grow, if they pursue a career and want to get educated, they grow into the idea that discussion of ideas are important. So even though you may not catch them right off the bat, it's still valid to go over this and to present it, because there's going to be an audience down the line. And also there are younger people now that are interested in it too.
Oh, yeah. And to clarify, when I was talking about that, I was talking purely about how important is the way that this is presented visually.
Okay.
But I think that Gen Zers actually, they're quite good at absorbing information from multiple streams at once. And they could be listening to one thing and actually processing and identifying with it while their visual is doing something else.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think all people are capable of that to some degree or another. But you figure Gen Z, they've been raised. The society is basically trained. Everyone's got a device, so you have to do that, or you can't function. So it's interesting.
Yeah,
I've taught myself to do that. I started listening to audiobooks while I've been working on things, because I can enjoy the story and I can be working on it, and I still absorb the story as I'm doing, especially if I'm working on something tedious, and I just don't. It has to be done, but I want something to entertain my mind at the same time. So yeah, it's a good way to do it, multitasking, if you can.
Unfortunately, I have a major obstacle that prevents me from multitasking, is that I'm stupid.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry, but if one thing comes up, I'm not like a cat. If you ever watch a cat, the cat can do 10 things at once. I tend to have to focus on the one thing, but I understand what you're saying. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, that's our show for you today. Thank you very much for listening. We'll have a link to the Machinima Episode 3, Lynette Wallworth, plus the other Draxtor Dupre episodes at archive.org. And also don't forget the contest that Damien mentions. The deadline is at the end of September. We'll have a big link to that in our show notes. So make sure you follow that and enter if you can. All right, that's it. Thank you from Phil, Damien, and Ricky, and Tracy and her far-flung Ukrainian escapades. We'll see you now. Bye-bye.
Bye.